Well, it's officially summer pattern fishing, that season time of year thing. What does that mean? That means water temperatures are getting hot. And what does that do to water? So it does a couple things. One, some lakes, places you live, you may have an algae bloom. The other thing that really impacts fish is you have lower oxygen levels in those shallow water, and that forces a lot of the, especially the bigger fish, forces them off deep, whether it's on a deep dock or just a drop off, but it's going to force them into that little bit deeper water. I think in the summertime, there's really no better way to get those bigger tournament winning and tournament quality fish than, dragging a jig. One of my favorite colors that I like to drag is it's a color called Moneymaker from Pirate Bait Company. And basically, you've got this orange brown bottom. The sides, again, they're a green pumpkin with orange flake and then a green pumpkin top. So, if you want to get to those deeper fish, there's probably no better way to do it than a natural presentation that a jig offers. So with that being said, let's get this started. So first I want to talk about pirate jigs and what makes a pirate jig. Let me get this thing out of the way because it's in my armpit. What makes a pirate jig different than others? And there's a million jigs out there, and everybody says that their jigs are the best. That's fine, whatever. So anyways, pirate jigs, let me talk about this. So the head design on a pirate jig, you'll see it's kind of an archy, they would call it, head, wider at the shoulders, narrow at the base. I worked with a company here in Virginia to custom design this, and basically the difference is you'll see that the front is very flat and it's very wide at the top. And what this allows this jig to do, especially when you're dragging it, is it allows it to work almost like a football jig, in that as it's coming across the bottom, these wide shoulders will deflect off any cover that's on the bottom, giving that jig a very natural and subtle presentation. The other thing I worked on, you'll notice down here, it has a spring keeper for your trailer. I hate you put a trailer on, you make two casts, and the trailer is constantly slipping off that. A lot of them have that lead molded keeper, which doesn't work worth a darn. Or they got these little metal things that stick out, which the jig just rips off. So this spring keeper seems to be the best way to go. I don't know if that'll focus on that or not. You kind of get the idea. So the front of the jig, you'll see, is very wide at the top, giving it what I call wide shoulders, so it gives it good action creeping across the bottom. And that spring keeper keeps that trailer up nice and tight. Also a heavy duty, this is a 3/4 ounce, so I've got a 4/0 hook on here. This is a VMC jig hook, extremely sharp, don't do that. But that's the deal with the jig. The other thing that this jig head does is I love skipping a jig. There's no better way to catch big bass in the summertime than skipping jigs under those docks that are adjacent to deeper water. So this flat head allows that jig to skip nice through the water. It doesn't tumble, it doesn't hang up. A lot of companies out there are promoting their skipping ability of their jig, and really their jigs are a ball head, and a ball head is just not good for skipping. So the reason why, and I'll give you a little insight, a ball head jig is very easy to mass produce. It comes out of the mold very easy, it's easy to powder coat, they can produce them very quickly. These jigs, especially this one with the wide shoulders, it's a little more difficult to get it out of the mold because it tends to hang up here in the mold. So I got to kind of work it to get it out. But again, Pirate Bait Company baits, jigs, and other baits, I focus first on the action, and that's what makes these baits different than the others in the market. It's not a mass-produced bait. I pour these myself in my shop. And as I said, I designed this specifically to give you good crawling action and great skipping ability with this wider jig head. And also this keeper when you're skipping a jig, and I love skipping jigs, as I said, but when you skip it, it tends to want to pull the trailer down, and the spring or wire style keeper keeps that trailer nice and tight. So let's get started. Let me take you through how I tie a color that I call deadly. It's called Moneymaker. It's got that orange-brown belly, and again, summertime crawfish from eating things, could be anything, they eat a lot of stuff, that have been feeding on plankton and grasses all summer long. It gives them that orange sort of color on the belly, sometimes wrapping around to the top. But it also has a green pumpkin orange flake skirt and a green pumpkin back with a brown and orange keeper. I pour this in a jig head color called Rusty Craw. My jig heads are, I call them twice baked. So I get the powder coat on, bake it one time in the oven, 10 minutes at 250 degrees, let it cool, put it back in, 10 minutes, 250 degrees, and make sure that jig head is durable and it's going to withstand getting banged off docks, rocks, pontoons, whatever you skip your jig into. So that's the deal with that. All right, let's get started with this here. So let me get set up here. I'm going to move you in a little bit closer. I'm sure you don't want to stare at my face the whole time. So let me just do this and let me get my deal set up here. All right. It's a little bit better. I'll move you in and out as I'm tying this thing to give you good looks. But obviously the first thing I want to do, and again, can't say enough about these vices that are 360. You definitely, if you're going to tie jigs, get you a 360 vise. So we'll get this thing here mounted up. And what I like to do when I mount mine, because this is really for tying flies, small hooks. You got this first screw on the top here, and one down here on the bottom. This first one, I like to make sure my jig hook kind of goes under that and back over, if you can see that at all. So it kind of goes under that first one. It kind of locks it in that way. And then I tighten it down. And then I kind of wrench on this bottom one to get her snugged up nice and tight. Okay, so that's kind of what it looks like. Then I got my thread. This one's going to be with, this is again 210 denier. This is a color called Olive that I just received in. So this is my first jig using this color. Usually I use like a black, but do the fish notice a difference? Probably not, but it makes a difference to me. So anyways, wrap your base around. And I don't go crazy with the base. I just get enough on there to kind of keep it together, all right? Snip off that tag end, boom. I'll let the trash over there. All right, so we got that wrapped. So the one thing I always do, if you watch my swim jig video, I always tie the bottom first. So I wrap, turn this way, rotate it around. Gives me access to the bottom of this jig. Let me bring this down a little bit more and even in a little closer so you can see what I got going on here. There, maybe that'll be better. Hey, and I appreciate any comments you guys leave. So if you think, Tim, if you put your camera on this angle or that angle, hey, please tell me. So anyways, my jigs are 3 tabs typically. So again, I've got my 3 tabs. I've got the orange tab. Orange, it's got green pumpkins, blacks, browns. Same thing, I've got another tab, which is green pumpkin black with orange flake, and then a straight tab of green pumpkin. It's called barbed wire, with the black barbed wire. So that's kind of where I start. All my flipping, skipping jigs are 3 tabs. My swim jigs are 4 tabs, and I encourage you to go back and watch the swim jig video, and I'll explain to you why. So anyway, so I start with the bottom. So the bottom is going to be this orange color. And what I want to do is I put it under the thread, and I kind of get it somewhat equal, then I kind of pull it up over just like that. And again, you want the 2 ends to be equal. I tend to have the piece up here in the front a slight bit longer than the piece in the back. All right. And here again, I want to keep this color primarily on the bottom of the jig. So I'll hold it up like this. All right. And then I'll make a couple wraps. That might be a little bit better right there, right? How's that? Just to hold it in place. So we'll just do 1. Pull it back to make sure it stays there. The other thing I can do is, if you haven't found these clips yet, these little hair clips, You can get them on Amazon. You can get them at Walmart probably too, CVS, but that kind of helps. It does help hold everything in place. So I just kind of put it over it just to kind of keep it there. But you just want to get a couple wraps on it just to get her held up right there in the back of the jig. And then I'll throw a quick knot in it just to hold it in place. So I'm not wrestling with it the whole time I'm tying this jig. So there, we'll put one knot in. There we go. This back up. All right. Then you want to go around about 2 more times, and I'll tell you why here in a second. So that was 3. We'll go with that. All right. So there's the bottom. So now we got the orange color on the bottom. Now you just want to roll her back over, just like that. Just like that. I'll prop you up here a little bit so you can kind of see more of what's going on the top here. I got to get a new stand thing. You guys got any ideas for GoPro stands, man? Let me know. I got this one that's a portable jobby, and it's like really portable, like too portable almost. We're going to go with that. All right. So, okay, so we got our bottom wrapped on. I'll just take this off here real quick. So there's our bottom. Now what we want to do is, if you watch my other videos, I separate my colors. So I make sure that the bottom, it stays pretty much on the bottom, comes up around the sides. The side color is usually different, and the back color is usually different as well. So what you want to do is, here's my side color. It's going to be, this is that black with the green pumpkin and the orange flake. Okay, so I just break that in half. And I break it in half because I want half on one side, half on the other. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll my vise sideways, just like that. Just my crappy camera stand. And then I'm going to do this side of the jig. So I'm going to bring this under the thread again. And up, and again, just kind of make it sort of halfway. And so I primarily want it on the side of the jig and the bottom. So that orange flake is going to carry off of the orange that's already on the bottom up to the side. I'll put a couple wraps in it, wrapping it toward me. And then again, I'll put a clip on it just to kind of keep it all together. And this side here, I'll just hold with my hand as I put a couple wraps on it, just to hold it in place. 1 and 2. That's the reason why I put the twist in it, because when you're wrapping it, if you don't twist it this way, the thread will want to pull the jig around to the front. All right, just a couple wraps right there. Then again, I'll throw a knot in it just to hold it all in place. Man, I'll tell you what, I bought this new thread bobbin thing. It's pretty freaking sweet, man. So it has these, let me show you this real quick. These black ends are actually ceramic. These ends right here. And man, it feeds the thread so smooth. My other one was just like stainless steel, and it would like catch and jerk and squeak, and my dogs would hear it squeak and the dogs would go nuts. Anyways. All right, so now you got that one side color done. Now I want to do the other side. So we're going to flip it back this way. And I didn't do one thing that I've got to do. So what you got to be sure you do, after you tie your knot, you got to put a couple wraps in it. Because remember, you're going to slide your next color underneath here. Oh, I did do that. Look at that. I'm better than I thought. There's only one, so I'm going to do another one. And you can't, with the knot being in place, you won't be able to do that. So you got to put just a couple wraps around it, just so you can get your next color of thread underneath it. Let's see here. We'll just keep all this together, kind of like that. And then we'll take our next color. And same thing. We'll work it underneath the thread, up over the top. And again, get it about halfway. Again, I like to have a little bit more on the front than the back. And then you want to lay it kind of next to the orange on the bottom. But it's okay to spread it out a little bit. So there again, I'm going to just get a couple wraps on that, just to hold her in place. Throw a quick whip knot in it. And now I got to bit of a mess because all this fell over, but that's all right. We'll get it figured out. Pull her tight. There we go. Saved it. Saved it. Okay. Yeah, let me just throw a twist in this just to keep it all together. Alrighty, so then just a couple more wraps around it, just so we can get our next color in. There. Alright, now you want to roll it up to the top. So now you've got your belly color, you got your two side colors, right? So you got the orange on the bottom, the orange, green, brown. Your side colors are that green pumpkin with the black and the orange flake, so it kind of rolls in together. Now your top color. And again, I like to keep my colors separated. Now when you're fishing, you know, it's going to move, it's going to combine, it's going to do what it wants to do, but yeah, let's start out with the right thing first. With the rubber or elastic bands like a lot of guys use, you're not able to get the good color separation that you do if you're hand tying it. So, do the fish know? I don't know. But to me, you know, I always say this. People say 80% of fishing is mental. Well, I think it's like 99% of fishing is mental. So anyways, here's my top color. So this is green pumpkin with that black barbed wire. And again, you go under your thread, work it up. And again, you want to get it about, you know, half to the front, half to the back. And this one, you know, I'm just going to kind of push it around and then throw a couple wraps in it. Okay. So now we've got all three of our colors in place. And again, I'll twist this just to hold it all together before I make that collar wrap. Okay, now my collar wrap, what I like to do is I want to wrap toward the head. And what that's going to do is going to allow that skirt to flare out once the threads get up toward the head. So I'm just going to keep wrapping toward the head of the bait. Just so I can get it snugged up tight to the back of that head. And you know, I don't go crazy with wrapping the daylights out of it, but I do like to get it nice and tight to that jig head. And I'll put a couple more. Now that I've got it tight against that head, I'll just work it down a little bit. There we go. That's good enough. Okay. There, just like that. So we'll throw a couple whip knots in it. Let me just do this real quick. I want to get another little clampy doohickey and get that clamped up in there just to kind of keep it all together over there. Because here's where you don't want to jeopardize, obviously, getting the whip knots correct is at this point. Because she'll come apart on you pretty good if you don't. All right, we're good. Yeah, every once in a while you want to roll that jig just like I did to make sure that the colors didn't wrap around. But if you do that twist and clamp, it tends to hold it right where you want it to be. So just keep that in mind. Just tighten up my thread here a little bit. I'm not used to this new fancy bobbin thing I got, man. It is slicker than slick. I'm used to like having that yank on the thread to get it off, and man, it's smooth. Ties really nice. So I usually go like 3 or 4 of these doohickeys in there. Then I just discovered this new adhesive, and I'll show you there. That's good enough. Let me get this out. We're good there. Cut that off. All right, so let's just unclamp this for a second so I can show you a few things. Oops. Let me get my stuff together here. All right, so there you have it. So you've got, again, you know, the back color, your 2 side colors, and the belly color, all giving you good separation through that jig. So now what I want to show you is how is this product that I found to adhere these threads. I'm just going to put a couple twists in it. I'm going to put it back in my vise so I can show you easier. Typically I don't. I just do this and then glue it, but I'll put it back in the vise. So let me just do this real quick. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Then we'll just kind of quickly clamp it in here. There. So now we got pretty much a finished product. Hope you all can see that okay. And man, I would appreciate any criticisms or comments you would have on maybe how to do this better. There's a lot of guys that are pretty experienced at doing this, and frankly, I'm not. I'm a fisherman and a jig tire. So anyways, there's some adhesives out on the market right now that just blow me away. If you guys haven't seen this UV adhesive, you've got to check it out, man. UV glue. I got this on Amazon, and I've done a bunch of reading on this, and that's why I chose this one. But there's and basically you put it on, you cure it with UV light. This came out of the fly tying world, and it works. I'm finding it works fantastic for bass jigs. Now there's a bunch of these brands in the market. One thing I found is this particular brand. It's just called UV glue. If you put it on Amazon and search it, it'll come up. It dries pretty quickly, and it's not tacky like a lot of other UVs that I tried. When you put the light on it, and I'll show you that in a second, it remains like sticky. This one really cures up nice. So basically what I do is I'll take my UV glue, and there's a couple different ones. So this one's actually called, let me just show you this quick. This one's called Thin. I hope you guys can see that okay. It's thin. As the instructions say, it's excellent for penetration. So I want it to get into those threads and down to the skirt material. There's another one called UV Thick. And this is for like building heads. Like I use this a lot on my swim jigs. And if you watch that video, you'll see why. So, but for this one, I like the UV Thin. And basically all I do is, just get my little tool out here, is I'll just put a drop of it on here. And then I have this little tool, this plastic tool. It's used for fishing rods, but I just want to work that glue into the threads, and I just rotate it around and just spread it. You could use anything to spread it. You could use, I started with a Q-tip, that'll work. And just spread it around that jig and make sure it gets all over those threads and penetrates deep inside of those threads. So the cool thing is it'll stay liquid. You could work it a long time. Unless you're sitting in front of a window, which, you got the UV light coming through the window. You might not want to do that. But then once you got it kind of into the threads and it's spread around really, really well, the kit also comes with this UV light. This deal. And you just hit it with this light and you just hold it for 20 to 30 seconds and I just rotate it. And the UV light cures that glue, and man, it cures it like a rock. I know a lot of guys will use super glue or 5-minute epoxy. And nothing I've found works as, and I've used all of those, believe me. There's also another one out there that guys use from the fly tying world. It's, I have it here. So it's called something, head cement or something. That's okay, but it's not really that durable. I found out that head cement is really for small flies and not jigs that are going to be skipped or eaten by, we hope, 10-pound largemouth, right? It's not really made for that. It's okay, but it's not that great. So again, I just keep rotating this around, keep that light, and I can see it's already dry. And when it dries, it is hard as a rock. So that's what you end up with. And you can see it's already dry. So there you have it. So let me take this out, and I'll just right now just trim the ends off. And right now I'm just going to do it just to kind of get it trimmed up. I'll do the detail trim later. Trim that off. Pull this out. Get it out of my vise. Bing, bing, bing. Trim this back tails here. Where's my scissors? Trim this off. Just move this back a little bit. Trim all these off. And it just frees the skirt. I'll trim, as I said, I'll trim it up to the length that I fish with probably later. So there's what you end up with. All right, that's called Moneymaker. Now what I want to do is, of course, it's going to get a weed guard. So again, I'll take this and I'll pinch it all. Now that glue is nice and dry, right? So you can pretty much manhandle the thing. I'll throw a twist in it and I'll put a clamp on it, a little hair clippy thing. And for the sake of this video, we'll put it back in the vise and I'll put that weed guard on. So we'll just clamp her back in the old vise here. Flip her around. And as I said, the weed guard that I use, where did I put them? Over here. These are the weed guards that I use. It's actually it's brown and orange on the bottom. And I get these from Barlow's or Lure Craft, one of those guys. By the 100. But again, this UV cement is fantastic. So I just put a little drop of UV cement on the bottom of this thing. Boom, boom, boom. And then when I insert it, I want to keep the light color, the orange color, kind of down on the bottom, the dark color up on the top. So we'll just kind of push it in. Just like that. And again, we just hit it with the light. And that thing will cure right inside of there, 15, 20, 30 seconds. And it's great, for me, because I'm producing these, I'll sit here at my table and I'll wrap 30, 40, 50 of these in a night. And I can do them really quick and I can package them and get them out the door. So if guys order them and if I don't have them in stock, I can usually pump one out pretty quickly. And then there you have it, man. That skirt thing is held in there nice. And we'll get this out of here. Whoa. Hello. So there you go. You have, let me get rid of this real quick. Get rid of that bad boy. I'll move you back up here so you can stare at my face a little more. I'm sorry, but... And again, anybody has any comments on camera stands, man, I would love some help with that deal. So there you have what's called Moneymaker. Again, it's that orange color. Oh, you know what? Let me do this. Hang on a minute. I'll be right back. We'll take it one step further. I just poured a bunch of trailers. I've just poured it just hot out the pot, so to speak. So this is your typical Bama craw, orange belly, green pumpkinish top with that orange and green and red flake. This is a fantastic trailer. So we'll just tear off one of those. I'll give you a full feel for what this bad boy looks like. And this is like summertime. This is deadly. And I'm not making this up just to sell you baits. It's deadly. So I usually break it off. And you can run this by itself. The cool thing about Pirate Bait Company plastics, they all float. So if you want to put this on a Carolina rig, it's incredible. The hook itself will sink it to the bottom, but the claws will stay up and they'll float. So on a jig trailer, I'll usually just kind of bite it off at about the first segment. Right here, I'll just bite this segment off. Sorry, Mom. And then we'll just thread it on like you would any other bait trailer. And as I said, the cool thing about this glue is that, man, it's dry already. So I can do all this stuff and not have to worry about it breaking my jig apart. Run it up through the head. Then, of course, you got the twisty spring, which you got to have that, man. If you're flipping, skipping, hauling in 10-pound lunkers, you got to keep your trailer on. That's just the way it is, man. That's just the way it is. Put that up on tight. Then, of course, you always want your jig laying flat, so I'll just put my 2 fingers on either side of the hook. I'll just give it a little pull down there. There you go. And there you have Moneymaker. And I'll probably trim the skirt up maybe a little bit, not too terribly much. But that right there is a deadly, deadly, deadly summertime pattern. Deadly. So guys, piratebaitcompany.com. Check it out. Moneymaker jig. Bama Craw trailer. I just poured a bunch of these, so I got a whole rack of them behind me over, where is it now? Oh, right there. Whoop, right here. Nope. You get it. They're right over there. They're right here. Check them out. I just poured up a bunch of new ones. So, yeah. Moneymaker. Deep jig. Pattern. Skipping those deep docks. Deadly idea. Deadly idea. So, hey, thanks for stopping in. Thanks for checking it out, man. I appreciate your time, man. Do me a huge favor. Hit like, hit subscribe for me. Got a whole bunch of stuff coming up. Not only jigs, but I'm going to take you out in the shop. And I'm going to take you through how I pour all those plastics back there. And my setup out there, I've got a pretty cool setup for what I call a micro, we'll call it a micro plastic bait company, right? But it's pretty cool. So anyways, yeah, hit like, hit subscribe. I thank you very much for your time. And please give me comments on this freaking GoPro stand thing. What are you guys doing out there? Because I'm like wrestling with this thing. I got these big giant meat hooks and it just falls over all the time. So anyways, thanks again for watching. PirateBaitCompany.com. Tim K coming at you. Like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff for me. So anyways, enjoy the heat. Take care. Moneymaker. It's the deal, man.